What is MHCT Session 3? Who should take the course? Why take the course? What will you learn? And how do I access the course? These are the questions we'll answer today. What is MHCT Session 3? MHCT is a fair housing session created by MAAT Nation that has been revamped and edited from HUD Housing Counselor training in the form of narrated self-paced online video sessions, which include images, quizzes, which are knowledge checks, resource links, and example counseling scenarios. Who should take the course? Each session is designed to prepare you to take the test to become a certified housing counselor with HUD, NACA, or any other authorized housing agency. It has also been designed for prospective and current home buyers, renters, and industry professionals such as contractors, builders, realtors, bankers, and nonprofit entities. Why take the course? Well, in February 2025, the average salary for a housing counselor in the United States was $46,554 per year, or $22 per hour. The salary range for housing counselors varies depending on experience, location, and employment website. Well, it will also broaden your own knowledge, understanding, and skills in the real estate market. But most importantly, think of the rewards that come with assisting individuals and families in need. What will you learn? Well, let's listen to the introduction and objectives. MAAT Housing Counselors Training Session 3.1, Fair Housing History and Overview. Introduction. It's important for housing counselors to understand the basics of fair housing and know what is protected by the Fair Housing Act to effectively inform and empower members. In this session, you'll learn about the history of housing discrimination, key provisions of the Fair Housing Act, and basic terms and concepts necessary for identifying potential violations of fair housing laws. Before we begin, let's take a look at the session learning objectives. Lesson objectives. By the end of this session, you will be able to comprehend the connection between the history of civil rights and discriminatory practices in the financial and housing industry, as well as the early role of the federal government and lending institutions. Comprehend key provisions of the Fair Housing Act and the impact of the law when discussing members' rights under the Fair Housing Act. Comprehend fair housing terms and concepts when discussing ways to identify and overcome violations of fair housing laws, including understanding of the 7 protected characteristics, and identify which entities are subject to and which entities are exempt from compliance with fair housing laws. MAAT Housing Counselors Training Session 3.2, Fair Housing Violations and Complaints. Introduction. It's important for housing counselors to understand the basics of fair housing and know what is protected by the Fair Housing Act to effectively inform and empower members. In this session, you'll learn about the history of housing discrimination, key provisions of the Fair Housing Act, and basic terms and concepts necessary for identifying potential violations of fair housing laws. Before we begin, let's take a look at the session learning objectives. Objectives. By the end of the session, you'll be able to Identify state and local resources for fair housing enforcement available to members confronted with a fair housing violation. Demonstrate how to report a violation of fair housing laws or requirements to empower a member to file a complaint. Comprehend common obstacles to fair housing to identify signs or evidence of housing discrimination and develop a marketing plan to address impediments. Employ methods to promote a member's awareness of fair housing and apply knowledge of the AFFH rule for the commitment of housing counseling agencies to affirmatively further fair housing. So how do I access the course? Well, just click the link below the video at www.maaatuniversity.org. You can also contact us at info@maaatuniversity.org.